We all want our kids to do well in school, so we do the things we were taught to do. We drill them on spelling words, we chant times tables, we stand over them while they do their homework. We think we're giving them the best shot. But what if? What if those methods are the very thing holding them back? Let's talk about the hidden crisis in how we teach our kids to learn. So let's just ask the tough question right up front. Think about it for a second. When a kid says, "Ugh, I'm just bad at math," are they really? Or have we just made learning math so tedious and inefficient that it feels like a punishment instead of a discovery? And this quote, wow, it just gets right to the heart of the matter. Our intentions are good, we're trying to help. But the very study habits we're passing down might be the source of all that frustration, not just for our kids, but for us during those late night homework battles too. And this all points to what you could call a hidden crisis. The problem isn't just that the way we teach kids to study is a little bit clunky. It's that a lot of the time it's actively working against them. It's actually counterproductive. Here's the core idea. Instead of teaching our children how to actually think, we're mostly teaching them how to copy and repeat. It's like we're asking them to build this incredible, detailed castle of knowledge, but we're giving them sand as the foundation. And then we're surprised when the whole thing just crumbles. So, to really get a handle on why this is happening, we're going to use a simple framework, the 6 levels of learning. Now, here's the kicker. Most of the studying we ask kids to do never, ever gets past these first 3 levels. So, what are those mysterious top 3 levels where the real magic happens? We'll get there. But first, we have to understand the trap. All right, let's start at the bottom with level 1, the rote trap. Oh, you'll recognize this one. We've all been there. This is pure brute force memorization. It's probably the most common form of studying out there. And let's be honest, it can be absolutely soul-crushing. So, what's the goal at this level? It's simple. Just repeat the information. That's it. It's all input, output. There's no deep thinking, no making connections. The brain is basically acting like a photocopier, trying to hold on to an image just long enough to spit it out on a test. And I'm sure this looks familiar. Writing a spelling word out 20 times, chanting math facts, copying a sentence from a text back. We've all done this. We've all made our kids do this. And the dirty secret is, it just doesn't work very well. And here's the biggest reason why. It's something called the fluency trap. A kid can read a chapter 5 times and think, yep, I know this stuff. But what they're feeling is familiarity, not actual knowledge. Their brain hasn't done the hard work of making a real memory, so the information is totally disconnected and poof, it vanishes right after the quiz. Okay, so let's move up a step to level 2, surface understanding. Now, this one is tricky because it feels a lot better than just memorizing. There's some actual explanation happening, but it has its own very sneaky hidden traps. At this level, a kid can actually explain a concept using their own words, so they're not just parroting back a definition. And that's a definite improvement. But this is also a really dangerous place because it's where most of us, parents and teachers, tend to stop and say, great, they get it. So you see this all the time, right? You ask your kid what multiplication is, and they say, oh, it's just adding over and over. Or they can retell the basic events of a story. They sound right. They sound like they understand. But this is where we run into the explanation illusion. The teacher explains something, the kid nods along, it all makes sense. They can even explain it back, but that understanding is often paper thin. It hasn't really been challenged or tested, so the second they're faced with a slightly different or harder problem, it all just falls apart. And that leads us perfectly into level 3, which you can think of as the repetition rut. If you've looked at your kids' homework lately, I guarantee you this is where most of it lives. It's all about applying knowledge, but it's a very, very limited kind of application. At this level, a student takes a rule or a procedure they were just shown, and they use it to solve a whole bunch of problems that are, well, almost exactly the same. In other words, welcome to the world of the worksheet. I mean, just think about it. That math worksheet with 20 problems that are just slight variations of each other, a spelling list where every word follows the exact same pattern, the student gets really, really good at performing that one very specific routine task. But here's the critical part. This isn't real thinking. It's just advanced pattern matching. The brain learns to recognize the type of problem and then just runs the pre-programmed procedure. This creates what's known as brittle knowledge. It looks super strong on the worksheet, but the moment you test it with a real-world problem that looks a little different, the whole thing shatters. And this comparison just lays it all out. The pattern-matching brain is asking, okay, which procedure do I use here? But the thinking brain is asking a much deeper question. Why does this procedure even work? And when is the right time to use it? So much of our homework trains that first question, and almost none of it trains the second. Okay, so let's see how this all comes crashing down with a simple little word problem. Imagine a student who has aced every single addition and subtraction worksheet you've thrown at them. They're a master of calculation. Then you give them this. And they freeze up. They can do 31 minus 23 in their sleep. The raw calculation is not the problem at all. So why in the world are they completely and totally stuck? And here's the punchline to this whole thing. It's because they spent all their time practicing the procedures and no time practicing the thinking. It's like we handed them this amazing toolbox full of saws and hammers, but never taught them how to tell the difference between a nail and a screw. They don't know which tool to pick for the job. So now we've seen how these first 3 levels really can let our kids down. There's a clear pattern here, isn't there? It shows that this isn't about studying harder or for more hours. It's about studying smarter. Let's wrap this up by looking at the one single flaw that ties all 3 of these traps together. Just look at what's going on here. Level 1 is about repeating something you were told. Level 2 is explaining something you were taught. And level 3 is applying a method you practiced. See the thread? They are all fundamentally passive. The student is just a processor. Information goes in, and a prepackaged answer comes out. There's no creativity, no real problem solving, no independent thinking. Which, of course, leaves us with the most important question of all. If these first 3 levels are basically just learning traps, what's the alternative? What are those higher levels of thinking, the ones that build flexible, strong knowledge that a person can use for the rest of their life? Well, that is exactly what we're going to explore next time.